Hello, welcome to this video. Welcome to my channel. My name is Emma and I am very hungry. Last week my video was sort of low energy because I was really hungry, but I think this week I'm going to use it as an impetus to make this video quick and snappy. I have a lot to cover in this video, which is going to be my August wrap-up and my September books on my radar. There is a pile of books over here. I don't know if you can see that, but I just took everything out of my bookshelf and threw it into that pile, and I'll bring things out as they are relevant. August was a bit of a rough reading month for me. I took a lot of time to read very few books and then read a couple of things very quickly, so it was just kind of strange and weird. During the month of August, I moved from my parents' home to this beautiful room in this house-style dorm that I live in at college, and have started my senior year of college with all of the jobs that it comes with. I don't think college comes with jobs. I have a couple. So I've just been bouncing a lot, as well as recovering from some pretty significant changes in my life, and just trying to bring things back to an equilibrium and bring things back to normal. I am feeling a lot better as of yesterday and today. I'm very grateful for that fact. So I'm very excited for September, but without further ado, let's get into my August wrap-up. The first book that I finished in the month of August was Great Expectations by Charles Dickens. I gave this 4 stars. I had a really good experience reading this. This is only my second Dickens book, and I did trudge through it, but Dickens has an unavoidably gritty type of feeling to his writing, and this novel, Great Expectations, shares that with A Tale of Two Cities, which is a comfort read for me. It's my favorite book, and so I read this for 2 weeks at a time where I needed that comfort, and so it was great. Even though the plots are nothing alike, it brought me the same comfort that A Tale of Two Cities might bring me, while simultaneously giving me a brand new story to think about. The plot of Great Expectations follows a boy named Pip as he grows through his childhood up into his adulthood. One day, while Pip is wandering the marshes and the graveyards in Kent where he lives, looking at the grave sites of his father and his mother and his multiple brothers who have died, he is confronted by a convict who asks him for food, drink, and a file to file away his leg iron. That is the impetus and the Kickstarter for the entire story, in which Pip has great expectations of becoming a gentleman. He is in the lower working class, but he wants to be a gentleman. This is a book about disappointment and sadness. Even though it's called Great Expectations, it's about your great expectations either not being what you think they are when you actually get them, or about not fulfilling your great expectations, depending on how you read it. I actually am currently reading this again in a classroom setting in my Victorian literature class, which is an elective for me, and it's really fun to learn a lot of the background and the reasons why things are the way they are in this book, and then to have another look at it through this new lens. The second book I finished in August was on audio, and it was Beneath the Sugar Sky by Shauna Maguire. This is the third book in the Wayward Children series, and I rated it 5 stars, as I have every book in the Wayward Children series. I've already expressed how perfect I think each and every one of the Wayward Children's books are, but they just keep getting better. The Wayward Children series as a whole is about the children who fall through to the other side. They fall through to other universes. When those children are ejected from those worlds and come back to this one, they have a hard time coping because they've been rejected by the place where they belong the most. So they go to the School for Wayward Children, which is run by a former wayward child herself. My favorite parts about these stories are the imagery and the worlds that are created, as well as the representation. There is such diverse representation throughout all of the books, and in Beneath the Sugar Sky, the representation, it just gets wider. With Beneath the Sugar Sky, Shauna Maguire moves into religious representation as well as body type representation. She builds realistic, diverse, complicated characters in this world that is almost inconceivable, and I cannot praise these books enough. I am super excited to read the next one, which is Come Tumbling Down, on audio as well, and just keep going with the wonderfulness of this series. I think this book, Beneath the Sugar Sky, has had my favorite imagery so far. It takes place in a sugar world, and so just like the beauty of that, the soda ocean, I just loved it. The third book that I finished in August is a collection of poetry, and it is the original 1855 edition of Leaves of Grass by Walt Whitman. I gave this 5 stars. This is the first poetry book that I have read of my own volition, and I absolutely adored it. This is the kind of poetry that I like, that I can get behind. It took a really long time to read Leaves of Grass, and so it had a very distinct effect on my experience, and I'm going to read what I wrote in my little what I read book. I wrote, Walt Whitman feels like a friend. His views on the world are beautiful, and his views on human beings have changed me forever. I love the philosophy of this book. I love the psychology of this book. I love Walt Whitman's outlook on just things in general. Behind me on the wall, I have a Walt Whitman poster and a quote that says, I exist as I am, and that is enough. The fourth book that I read in August was Peter Pan by J.M. Barrie. I rated this 4 stars. If you don't know, Peter Pan is about a magical little boy who comes into children's nurseries at night and whisks them away to Neverland, which is a place of all types of magic, as well as pirates who are out to kill Peter Pan. Captain Hook specifically. This little boy and this huge man pirate are mortal enemies. Peter Pan also has a host of children that he has taken from their nurseries before called the Lost Boys. There are also a league of kind of evil mermaids in this book, as well as fairies, like we know, Tinkerbell. Reading this was a really interesting time because this is aligned with the Disney movie, or rather the Disney animated movie is aligned with the novel in almost every way. But in the book, every one of those aspects is more unsettling. Every one of those elements is more complex, and it's unsettling and dark in a way that bubbles under the surface, and I'm going to use the same word again, but it leaves you with an unsettled feeling while you're reading about these children being so happy and flying to Neverland and meeting mermaids and things. It leaves you feeling uneasy. I really, really enjoyed reading this and comparing it to my memory of what the Disney movie is like. I love fantasy like this. I love like gritty, dark fantasy. Like I just finished the 5th season today, and it's amazing, and I love that. But I also love this, where everything seems to be all good, and Peter Pan wants you to think that everything's happy and wonderful in Neverland because he wants to trap you there. And the last book I finished in August was my failed attempt at the Summerween readathon. It was Dracula by Bram Stoker. I rated this 3.5 stars. Dracula opens with a young solicitor from London named Jonathan Harker, who is going to Transylvania to meet with Count Dracula at his castle in order to finalize Count Dracula's purchase of property in England. A lot of my experience reading this book is in my Summerween reading vlog, my failed Summerween reading vlog, but I loved the first half, almost the first 3/4 of this book. I loved the way that the cast of characters was built very systematically. I liked all the characters individually, especially Mina and Van Helsing. I thought both of those characters were awesome. I liked the plot, I liked the scary stuff that was included, and I liked the empirical scientific method through which the story was told. But as the book progressed into that second half, all of those same things, except for the characters held up, but all of those same other things, the plot, the scientific storytelling, those things grew very tedious, and it just wasn't exciting anymore, I don't think, at least for me. I still found the ending rather satisfying. The characters get what they want in the end and are able to sort of save the world in a way. So yeah, Not a bad rating, not the greatest thing I've ever read though. Those are all of the 5 books that I read in August. Now let's talk about September. First, I'm going to tell you what I'm currently reading, and then we're going to move on to the books that are on my radar. The first thing I'm currently reading on audio is The New Jim Crow by Michelle Alexander. This is a nonfiction text all about mass incarceration in the era of colorblindness, which is actually the subheading of the book. I have about 4.5 hours of this book left, and so I'm expecting to finish it this week or early next week at the very latest, and I am really enjoying it. It starts off basically just giving us broad ideas and it sort of starting to explain them. Then it moves to giving us specific facts and statistics, and now she is in the part where I'm reading, she is mixing those statistics in with real life stories, real life names, and real life situations. Obviously, I'm reading this book to learn more, but from my understanding of what she has presented, she is creating a very well-rounded account and comprehensive account of what is going on in our country right now. In terms of poetry, I am currently working my way through Rilke's Book of Hours, Love Poems to God, translated by Anita Barrows and Joanna Macy. I am loving this poetry. It's very existential, very curious, very focused on the relationship between self and divine, and not necessarily focused on the relationship between self and other like Walt Whitman was. And so I'm really loving this perspective on who God is to Rilke, as well as just getting to drink in the beautiful words that he chooses to use. Now moving on to my September books on my radar, the very next things that I'm super excited to read are The Obelisk Gate and The Stone Sky by N.K. Jemisin. As soon as I am able to, I'm going to go out to the bookstore and buy them. The day that I'm recording this, I just finished the 5th season, like I said, and it was absolutely incredible. So good. I'm also wanting to continue with the Chronicles of Narnia. The next 2 books I just thought I would pull for this are The Voyage of the Dawn Treader and The Silver Chair. I've read the first 2, so these are just the next on my list. Wanting to stay in the magical and or magical realism vein, the next book on my radar is 100 Years of Solitude by Gabriel Garcia Marquez. This is magical realism, and I am very excited to get to this book. And last is The Poetry of Oscar Wilde. I love Oscar Wilde, so I just thought maybe I'll look at this when I'm finished with Rilke. And I know that I want to read more nonfiction as soon as I'm finished with The New Jim Crow, but I honestly don't know what to read. So if you have any particular recommendations, please leave them in the comments. Alright, that is all for this video today. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you are doing well. I hope that if you're not, it gets better soon, and I hope that you love what you're reading. I will see you soon. Bye.